Have a seat. We'll start now. What is fear? Have you ever asked yourself in a focused way what fear is? And if we ask ourselves this question, if we ask someone else this question, where does our focus take us? Onto the symptoms of fear. When I'm afraid I can't breathe, when I'm afraid I can't sleep, when I'm afraid I can't do this or do this or do this. But is not sleeping fear? Is not being able to breathe fear? Those are symptoms. These important questions, what am I afraid of? Or the most important question you will ever ask yourself is, am I happy? And publicly, yes, I am happy. But privately, early in the morning when you wake up and there's no one else there and there's no responsibilities, ask yourself then, tonight, when you're in your bed by yourself, the person next to you has already fallen asleep, and you ask yourself, when you're completely unmasked, when Hanumanji goes to meet Lord Rama for the first time, he doesn't go as a monkey, he goes as a young student, a Vatu. And they get into a dialogue, and Hanumanji realizes that this is Lord Rama, the father of the universe. And he asks him, Bhagwan, how come you didn't reveal yourself to your devotee? And Lord Rama's response is, how come you didn't reveal yourself to me? You came in with a mask, I kept my mask on. You take your mask off, I take my mask off. Are you happy? What is fear? And we are actually afraid of that answer, which is why we don't ask it, we don't answer it. In one place, after a few discourses, I was about to finish, and I said, how many of you are going to get enlightened in this lifetime? 50, 60 people there. One man confidently puts his hand up. He looks around, no one else had their hand up, so he put his hand down then. Right? Afraid. I don't want to get enlightened without everyone else. Since we don't ask the question fully and we focus on symptoms, in this philosophy portion, let us focus on the symptoms. Why? Because the more aware we are of the symptoms, the more attention we'll give to the cure. If I have a small blemish on my arm, small one, I don't do anything about it. Maybe it's a sunburn, maybe I'm getting older. But if that keeps getting darker, bigger, I'm more aware that this is not natural to my skin. I give it more attention, I go to see a dermatologist, correct? Physically, we would all do that. What's even more powerful is the mind on the body, which we rarely give focus to. What is a symptom of fear at a physical level? When you're afraid, what happens to your body? We come to feel uncomfortable. We get hot unnecessarily. We breathe in erratic patterns. It's a disease, dis-ease. And an expression of that is not being able to sleep. Someone said exams, right? All sorts of exams. If you have an exam tomorrow morning and you have to write it at 8 a.m., the chances are that you won't be able to sleep and you'll be awake before your alarm clock goes off. I'm afraid. So it makes us uncomfortable. We don't know how to rest. And you compare this to those who are fearless animals. Children. Children can sleep in any place, at any time. That's a blessing for parents, right? Children can sleep anywhere, anytime. Adults can sleep And every discourse, and any discourse. So that's where the similarity is. I'd read another message that said, adults are like children who have mortgages. They're exactly the same, but they have mortgages. So physically, the symptom of fear is I feel uncomfortable. Mentally, the symptom of fear is projection. I project this may happen, that may happen, this won't happen, this will happen. A projection. A classic example of that is when you have to call someone whom you don't want to call. How many games go on in the mind before you actually pick it up? Now imagine you've picked up your phone, not that anyone has phones like this anymore, so you've taken your cordless phone, you've dialed the numbers and it's ringing. What are you doing during this time? Praying with such sincerity, please give me the answering machine, please give me the answering machine, please give me the answering machine. With such sincerity. And then they pick it up, hello? And you're shocked that your prayers weren't answered. But then you talk to the person, you address the matter, ask whatever it is, and you hang up, and you think, what was I doing? I could have done that in 30 seconds, but it took me 3 days to do it. Everything is easier after it's done. But then when we are in the same circumstance, it's like we forget that it's possible. We forget that it's easy. It's all a projection of the mind. Physically uncomfortable, mentally there's projections, intellectually we begin to compromise. When we're afraid, our intellect gets confused. It doesn't know what's right and wrong. And a primary example of that is Duryodhana. Duryodhana has been loved fully by Bhishmacharya, Dronacharya. And you see at the beginning of the Mahabharata war, he's there looking around and he sees Dronacharya. And what does he call him? Calls him Dvija, saying you're a Brahmana, not a Kshatriya. Questioning his loyalty. His whole life, he's had reverence for Dronacharya. But all of a sudden, when he became afraid, he started mouthing off to Dronacharya. And Bhishmacharya is so great, he sees all of this, and to shake him out of it, he begins the Mahabharata war. For anyone who studies Mahabharata, it is shocking to see how much Bhishmacharya and Dronacharya loved and supported Duryodhana, despite him being so cruel and mean to them. And it's because he's afraid. He's a symbol of fear. The intellect gets confused. This is the difference between compromise and sacrifice. An intellect that is not afraid sacrifices, holds on to the higher and lets go of the lower. That's what sacrifice is. They both involve letting go, but what do you let go of? Compromise is holding on to the lower and letting go of the higher. The intellect, when infused with fear, always falls to compromise. And an example of this is the corrupt politician lets go of the sake of the nation, the welfare of the nation, so that they privately grow. Whereas the noble patriot will hold on to the nation even if it means giving up their life and family. Most of the people who fought for Bharat didn't see the freedom of Bharat. They were all killed before Bharat was actually free. Fearless. But when the intellect is confused, it shifts to compromise. A story to show what fear does to us. A gentleman worked for a company that transported frozen food from city to city to city in Bharat. And this is back in the day with the steam engines, etc. So he's in Madras, again, back in the day. And he's in the compartment, checking to see this is there, this is there, this is there, and everything is fine. And he goes to leave, but he can't open the door. So he's pulling harder, it's not working, and he hears the engine is starting. He starts kicking at the door, starts to find a bar to do something to the handle, but it's too loud, nobody can hear him. So the train leaves. It arrives in Delhi, the company that's waiting for the food is there. They open the compartment door, that person's on the ground, turning blue and shaking. So they quickly call the ambulance, they come, they take him away, and the police, because maybe someone did this on purpose. So the police is in there investigating the handle, the compartments and all of that, and they're going on. And one of the officers, who's paying more attention, he turns around and says, "Let's stop this investigation." Everyone asks why. He says, "This person is not suffering from hypothermia because the refrigeration is not working on this compartment. He thought he was going to freeze, and so his body followed suit." When you and I are afraid, we fail in our responsibilities. If that worker was unafraid of being in that compartment, he would have noticed that nothing would have happened to me. It would have been a trip. He could have eaten all that food. But we fail in our responsibilities in the present and in the future. I actually see a lot of that happening with our young adults. A lot of our young adults are now consciously choosing not to get married. Part of the reason for that is the fear that we instill in them. Marriage is like this, marriage is like this, marriage is like this. Think, if a young adult is in a home where there's two happy parents, then in their mind, I should be the same way. But if a young adult is in a family where there's two angry parents at each other, then they think, why? Why should I be in this? When we had done our Understanding Marriage retreat here, then I was talking to some of our young adults afterwards who are not married. And I said, "So, what did you learn from the retreat?" And their unanimous position was, "Don't get married." And I said, "You didn't listen to anything that was shared." Marriage is a sadhana. Our present and future responsibilities stop when we're afraid. I've seen someone punch a wall to break his wrist so that he doesn't have to write an exam. That is worth it rather than the fear of action. I've seen it with my own eyes. Not me, someone else. Such stoppage of responsibilities is not to be taken lightly, because responsibility, the Sanskrit word for responsibility is dharma. Dharma leads to shuddha, chitta shuddhi, which is purity of mind. And shuddha leads to ananda. Dharma, shuddha, and ananda. So if I pull out the dharma block, then there can be no shuddha, there can be no ananda. So fear impedes joy. And Lord Krishna is very specific about this. At the end of chapter 15, he calls Prince Arjuna by two names in that last shloka. He calls him Anagha and Bharata. Anagha means the one who is without agha. Agha means impurity. So the one who is pure. And the whole message of Srimad Bhagavad Gita is dharma, mama dharma. We often study that. So Prince Arjuna, you fulfill your responsibilities, you will become anagha. Then it's my responsibility, meaning Lord Krishna, to turn you into Bharata. Bha means light, Bha means knowledge, Bha means joy. Rata means the one who's filled with, pervaded by. But if Mama Dharma goes, Anaga is not possible, and nor is Bharata then. And saying the same thing in one other set of words. If you can measure how much time someone who's not working spends in front of a screen, it would be shocking. Whether it's a computer screen or a telephone or a TV, you rewind one generation, not even one generation, you rewind 20 years, and it wasn't like that. You take away 20 more years, back in the day for television, there was no remote control. You'd have to get up and change the channel. So nobody wants to do that. You just sit there and just watch whatever's on TV, right? Screen time. And screen time is a catalyst to distraction. Now we take this very lightly. Yeah, my kid's distracted, my father's distracted, this person's distracted, give them a screen. Without concentration, there can be no contemplation. And without contemplation, there can be no contentment. Concentration is the means to contentment. So being distracted is not a light circumstance. Being afraid of responsibility is not something that has light repercussions. Such a person who is filled with fear at a physical level, mental level, intellectual person, that person has died. And not just once, that person keeps on dying. And this is so succinctly put at the beginning of Vivekji. Really, the first shloka is not the Mangal shloka. We tend not to count that. The first shloka, Adi Shankaracharya talks about the greatness of the fact that you're reading Vivekji. It means you're a human. It means that you're sattvic, that you're a sadhaka. And he gives like 9 steps to take us from ignorance to freedom. And he says the person who doesn't climb this ladder from ignorance to freedom, that person has committed suicide. Not physically. That's obviously sad. But this is even more intense because who knows if I'll be born again as a human. If we have a BMI chart here, not that I'm asking for it, but if we have a BMI chart, because sometimes people take words so seriously. I went to one center, and I was staying at a new family. Sheila and I, my wife Sheila and I, were both staying at this home, and we just got there, and they were taking us to eat because they were both working, so we met them for lunch. And they were like, you know, we've never hosted an acharya before, and we heard that you really like Kadoba. And I was like, really? And I was like, who did you hear this from? They're like, this person said it, and this person said it, and this person took you there. I've never even been to Kadoba before. I've never even heard of Kadoba before. But, you know, if you say something even casually, they take it very seriously. Here you should take things seriously, okay? Oh, fearlessness, why take that seriously? Adi Shankaracharya says, it takes a shata koti. Shata means 100, koti means a crore or 10 million, which means a billion. 100 times 10 million is a billion. It takes a billion intelligently lived lifetimes to go from ignorance to freedom. Intelligently lived. If not intelligently lived, keep growing that number. So, if we are not trying to raise ourselves, it's the same as suicide, but at a deeper level. And remember, Vedanta does not save one from death. Bhagavan Rama essentially died. Lord Krishna essentially died. Their body died. Mother Sati died. Vedanta does not save people from death. It saves people from the fear of death. And didn't all the groups have that on their list? If not death, pain, but they're similar. They're different expressions. And to give you a counter presentation of this, when Raja Parikshit, and what a beautiful name. You know, we're afraid of such names as Yama, Nachiketas, Parikshit. These are the best names. Parikshit means the one who has examined all fields. When he was told that he is going to die in 1 week, he got up and thanked that young boy, saying, "You've given me a ticket to prioritization." Now, put it this way. If you had 168 hours to live, what would you be doing? Slow exodus out of the room. And it's a joking matter and also not a joking matter. I was teaching a similar subject in a center, and one of our Balavar teachers was sitting with me, and she said, "Can I share a thought with everyone?" Of course. And she presented this. What would you do if you had 1 week to live? And it really got everyone thinking. And the class finished, and later that evening she had sent me an email saying her daughter died in her first week of university from a cold. Just the virus got to her heart and she died in 48 hours. And from that time onwards, this Balavar teacher has not allowed herself to suffer from fear. Knowing that physical death is not a happy experience, but living in fear is an even more unhappy experience. She tries to live cheerfully, fearfully. And why this is a serious matter is nobody in this room definitively knows they're going to reach home today. You can say you know that definitively. Even if I'm sleeping in this ashram, I don't know if I'll be able to reach the bed definitively. And our Shastras keep mentioning this to us. In Mahabharata, in the Yaksha Prashna, I think we've had some presentations on Yaksha Prashna in CMWRC, and that Yaksha asks Dharmaraja, that is Yudhishthira, what is the greatest ascharya, the greatest wonderment about the way people live? And he says that all around we see people dying, but never think it's going to be us. Isn't that a wonder? In another incident in Mahabharata, Yudhishthira and Bhima are sitting and chatting. And a bhikshu comes and says, "Bhiksham dehi, give me food, give me funds." And Yudhishthira, who's engrossed in talking to Bhima, says, "Bhikshu, come back tomorrow and I'll give to you." Politely, Yudhishthira is a great soul. And as soon as that bhikshu leaves, Bhima gets up and prostrates full out to Yudhishthira. And Yudhishthira gets up, "Bhima, I'm older, but we're equals." And he says, "No, brother, we're not. Because you've conquered death. You know you'll be there tomorrow to give to that bhikshu. So if you're not coming tomorrow, Guru Dakshina today." Vedanta saves one from the fear of death. When Raja Parikshit was bitten by Takshak, he didn't even know. He was so lost in his nature, which I'll elaborate in the coming evenings. He didn't know that he was poisoned. He didn't know he died. That's what Vedanta can do.